Looks like we finally got some messages from outer space. Seriously, this is some serious stuff. Keep watching to find out more. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Sotonye Afiesimama. It's the 18th of December and this is Today in History. So welcome back to my channel. If you're a subscriber, a returning visitor or a new visitor, thanks for dropping by once again. Don't forget to like, share, and if you haven't subscribed yet, join my 59 other subscribers so that you receive updates of my video uploads. Let's get cracking. So, on this day, we shall roll back the blind to the year 1852, and his name is George Henry White. This was the day that George Henry White was born. Who was this guy? He was an American attorney and politician, elected as a Republican U.S. Congressman from North Carolina's 2nd Congressional District between 1897 and 1901. He later became a banker in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and in Whitesboro, New Jersey, an African American community he co-founded. Okay, so he named Whitesboro after himself. Obviously, his name was George Henry White. Born in Rosindale, Bladen County, North Carolina, where his mother may have been a slave, his father, Wiley Franklin White, was a free person of color, of African and Scots-Irish ancestry, who worked as a laborer in the turpentine camp. George had an older brother, John, and the father may have purchased their freedom. In 1857, George's father, Wiley White, married Mary Anna Spaulding, a young local woman of mixed race and the granddaughter of Benjamin Spaulding. Born into slavery as the son of a slave mother and a white plantation owner, Benjamin had been freed by his father as a young man. As a free man of color, Spaulding worked to acquire more than 2,300 acres of pine woods, which he apportioned to his own large family. So again, this is Congressman Henry White, George Henry White, who was born on this day in 1852. He died on the 28th of December, 1918. Now, I did read a bit more about George Henry White. It was apparently, when he was congressman, this was during the Jim Crow era, and after he left office, it was 29 years before another man of color would occupy this position. So there was a lot of things were brought in to frustrate African American voters. I'll show you some more pictures of him, some more information about him as well. So as you can see here, it says the last black congressman of Jim Crow era honored at Duke on Friday. So George Henry White gave a famous farewell speech to Congress in 1901. Okay, so you can see all the information here, the photo credits, and to Wikimedia Commons, photo courtesy. Local leaders and other community members gathered to honor George Henry White's legacy Friday evening. Article credits byline by Likitha Puchred D. Gary, Monday, February 1st. Okay, let's move on to other pictures. So I'm not going to read this. You can pause the video at this point and read this article. It's quite interesting, painful too, to read stuff like this. But I guess it goes with territory when when people are going through change, it's difficult initially, because when you have preconceived notions about people of a certain race, not seeing them as equals, so obviously there will be resistance, and this snippet here shows exactly what can happen in the early stages of change. It's usually very painful. So I'll just read the first paragraph and then you can pause the video and read what's left here. So it says Democrats then proceeded to pass measure restricting access to the ballot for black citizens, making it difficult for whites to win another term. In 1901, White was voted out of office. Okay, I'll show you some more pictures and then we'll go on to the next event on this day. So this is a drawing of George Henry White. I shall read this, it's not that long, so I want to read this out. The Only Negro in Congress, that's the title of the article. George Henry White of Tarboro, North Carolina, has the distinction of being the only Negro in the present House of Representatives. Mr. White is 47 years of age. His education was obtained in the public schools of his native state and at Howard University in Washington. He studied law and, at 27, was licensed to practice in all the courts of North Carolina. From 1880 to 1884, he was a member of the state legislature and for 8 years was prosecuting attorney for his district. He was first elected to Congress in 1888 and was re-elected in 1898. His ability as a thinker and orator gives him the esteem of his fellow representatives, and his opinions are eagerly sought. Okay, so I barely was able to see the last few lines of this article. Okay, so let's move on to the next event on this day. So this was the day in 1863 that Franz Ferdinand, the Archduke of Austria Est it was called, he was born on this day. I did an article on this a few months ago, so if I find it, I'll put a link right here, right now. So Franz Ferdinand born on this day. Yes, it's an interesting story of his life, but I wouldn't let the cat out of the bag. Go check out the video. Okie dokie. Next, on this day, slavery was officially abolished. The year was 1865. Abolished in the United States by proclamation of the U.S. Secretary of State. The 13th Amendment to the Constitution outlawed slavery on this day, officially entered into force, having been ratified by the requisite states on the 6th of December. So, obviously, as you can see from this picture, this looks like a torture, some sort of branding on the back of this guy. So this says, on this day in 1865, slavery was abolished in America. After 245 years, slavery in North America officially ended with the formal adoption of the 13th Amendment into the U.S. Constitution. President Abraham Lincoln made his Emancipation Proclamation in the midst of the Civil War, almost a full 3 years earlier, in the eyes of the federal government, freeing 3 million of those enslaved in southern states. Okay, let's move on to the year 1912. So on this day in 1912, the discovery of fossil remains of Piltdown man, an extinct human species, was announced at a meeting of the Geological Society of London, but the remains were later proved to be a fraud. As you can see, it says here, paleoanthropological hoax. Piltdown man was a fraud. So this presumably is the group in London, the Geological Society of London. Eventually they found that Piltdown man was a hoax or a fraud. Next, 1879, Paul Klee was born. Who was Paul Klee? He was a Swiss-German artist born on this day. This is a self-portrait by Paul Klee. These are the paintings by him. Born on this day. Picture, obviously. of the Swiss German artist Paul Klee, and one of his other paintings. This is an abstract piece. So Paul Klee, Swiss German artist, born on this day in 1879. In 1912, on this day, the first African American general in the United States Air Force was born. His name was General Benjamin O. Davis. He was born in Washington, D.C. on this day in 1912. He died in 1970. Next, 1917, Ossie Davis, African American actor, born. So that's a picture of Ossie Davis. He died in 2005. 16 years later, in 1933, blues singer Leonie Brooks was born. So that's Leonie Brooks, born on this day in 1933. In 1946, Steven Spielberg was born. So happy birthday, Steven Spielberg, probably the most famous American film director and producer. Steven Spielberg, born on this day in 1946. He is 74 years old today. Also born on this day, happy birthday, Brad Pitt, the Heartbreaker, born on this day in 1963. I'm sure he doesn't need any more introduction. So happy birthday, Brad Pitt. This lady, Genie in a Bottle, singer Christina Aguilera, is 40 years old today. Believe it or not, she is. She's hit the big 4-0. So happy birthday, American pop singer Christina Aguilera, looking absolutely stunning. And this dress, makeup, hair, everything spot on. So happy birthday, Christina Aguilera. On this day in 1999, NASA launches Terra. It's an Earth-observing satellite. It was launched into the Earth's orbit to collect data about the Earth's changing climate. Terra lifted off from Vandenberg Air Force Base in California on a United Launch Alliance Atlas II rocket and is still in operation today. So thankfully, this satellite, this Terra Earth observing satellite, is still in operation today. 21 years later. That's absolutely fantastic. I did talk about the beginning of lockdown, how the pollution in London was taken back 70 years. So pollution levels, as a result of the fact that most cars were not running, airplanes were not flying, London's air quality improved dramatically. So well that it was comparable to the air quality in London in 1950, which, compared to today, is horrendous. So I suppose there were positives from the coronavirus, the fact that there was restriction of movement and it improved air quality. Okay, on this day, today exactly, this will become history, but happening now. I did allude to this at the beginning. Scientists think they've detected radio emissions from an alien world, from a planet orbiting a star beyond our sun for the very first time. So this is what is happening today. Scientists have made it public that they think they've detected radio emissions from an alien world. So if you want to find out more, just go on Google, do a Google search, find out more information about this. Now, there's something happening on the 21st of December. Watch out for that. For those who do not know, the 21st of December is the winter solstice, meaning that's the shortest day of the year. So the winter solstice But there is something which I shall reveal on the 21st in 3 days' time. So watch out for that. December 21st, history will be made for the first time since Galileo Galilei in the 17th century. So on that note, folks, we have come to the end of today's Today in History. Hope you enjoyed watching. I hope you learned a thing or two. I did as well. Thanks again for dropping by. If you haven't subscribed, feel free to subscribe so that you receive updates of my video uploads. Stay safe, and I shall see you tomorrow, December 19th. Bye-bye.